series.
We've been talking a lot in this series about template files and all the variables that are available inside of those template files, and all the different template files that exist inside of a Drupal site. Things like the page template file, the node template file. If we look at any of those template files, like our node template file for example, there's all kinds of variables that are available inside of this template file that contain content that we can print out to the page. The actual content of the node, the tags that are attached to the node, the name of the person that authored this post, and so forth. We saw that a lot of that information is documented in these template files, but this isn't necessarily all of the variables that are available for a template file. Whenever you install a new module, those modules have the ability to add additional variables to this template file. There's a number of different ways that we can see what all of those variables are for a template file. One of the coolest is a module called the Theme Developer tool. So we're going to take a look at using that. The Theme Developer tool is kind of like Firebug for Drupal. It even says so right in the description. Firebug for Drupal theming. Once installed, this tool lets us click around on our Drupal site and inspect different pieces of the page and see what template file was used to render and what variables are available for those template files. So let's install it and take a look at how we can use it when theming our site. I've already downloaded the module and placed it in my modules directory, so I'll just switch over here and enable the module. Under the Modules tab, I can scroll down, and now under the Devel section, I have this Theme Developer tool. I'm going to turn that on and click Save, and then close the overlay. Once it's refreshed, you'll notice down here at the bottom of the page, the Theme Developer tool added this additional little checkbox here for Themer Info. And if I check that checkbox, I get this little pop-up window up in the top right corner here. And as I hover over elements on the page, they're highlighted in red. I can hover over an element like this node and click on the element, and once I've selected it, this informational pop-up here gives me a whole bunch of information about how that particular element was rendered. It tells me which template was used in order to render that element. It used the node-article template file. In addition to telling me what template file was used, it also shows me all of the variables that are available for that template file using the handy Crumo output. I can click here and expand that and start to look at all of the different variables that are available inside of our node template file. A lot of these we knew existed already because they were documented inside of our template file. Some of them, though, might not have been documented. This is a handy way to see all of the things that Drupal core and any additional modules that you've got installed have added to your template file. By looking at this, I know that inside of my node template file, I have a variable named $is_front. In this case, that variable is set to the value of true. I also know that there's some other variables like $date, $display_submitted, and so forth. I can use any of these inside of my node template file to alter the output of that particular node. In addition to showing us what template file was used and the variables for that template file, the Theme Developer tool also shows us candidate template file names. This relates to that dynamic template file system. So these are all the files that we could use to render this particular node, starting with the most specific and working to the one that we're actually currently using. It's a little bit confusing because in this case, we see node__48, but I know that the template file name is actually going to be node-48. The reason for this is that there are some instances in Drupal where this template file name also needs to map to a corresponding PHP function name, and you can't use hyphens in the name of a PHP function. So when you're looking at this, you can assume that any underscore in the name of the file can be converted to a hyphen. Don't forget though that some of these are double underscores and need to be converted to a double hyphen. The Theme Developer tool also shows us the preprocess functions that were used to create this template file. We're going to talk more about preprocess functions in the advanced theming series. The other thing that the theme developer tool lets me do is look at the template files that are used as containers for this template file. So we've talked about this whole system of Drupal rendering things starting from the inside out. So it renders our node template file. And then all this content gets passed up to the block template file. Well, I can take a look at this block template file just by clicking on parents up here where it says block. So I've now selected the block template file. It shows me which one it used, the default one provided by the block module, any candidate template file names I could use, and then all of the variables that are available inside of that block template file. And I can keep going up, the region template file, the page template file, and so forth. The theme developer tool is really awesome. It lets us inspect all kinds of things on our Drupal page and figure out what's going on. Candidate template file names, variables that are available inside of our template files, and a lot more. It's important to know, however, that turning this tool on does some pretty crazy things to the HTML markup of our page. If I inspect the HTML of this page, you'll notice that the theme developer tool has inserted all kinds of additional spans into the HTML of the page. It needs these so it can do that highlighting thing. However, I don't want those in my production site. There's also some potential security implications to using the theme developer module, so it's something that you'll want to turn on and use when you're trying to inspect different elements of the page and figure out what's going on, but make sure that you've turned it off before deploying your site to its production environment.